I won the Futurity in 1997 on a mare named Some Kind of Memories. I remember being as calm as I've ever been in that arena. That's one thing I remember. I remember watching a run that I thought started a championship kind of run. Didn't cut a second cow that was as good to complement that first cow. And the first thing that entered my mind is that door's still open. Because there's no doubt we've been in that pen when they can put a pretty good score up there that puts a little more pressure or tenseness in the pen when you're trying to beat that can create some havoc when it doesn't quite fit. Her personality was, she was a strong-willed little mare, very confident in everything she did. I felt that the first time I ever put my leg over. And actually, we bought that mare the first time I ever rode her, which was 2 weeks before the Futurity started her 2-year-old year. She would give you the feeling that there wasn't really anything physically she couldn't do. My only concerns early was, can she be as smart as she can be physical? Dr. Schantz from Beaumont is the gentleman that bought that filly for me to ride. That was his first cutting horse. And long story how we met, but the first time we met and he came to my house, he volunteered to buy a prospect of my choice. And at that time, I had never had anybody do that. And so I just told him, I said, well, I don't know where there is one at that time. And I said, if I find one I really like, it may cost quite a bit. And that didn't seem to faze Dr. Schantz. So that's when we started on our journey to try to find a 2-year-old. To me, winning the Futurity was a lifelong accomplishment of trying to prove to my peers and all the men that I looked up to growing up in this business that I was an accomplished horse trainer. It didn't really have anything to do about the title and all that as much as I wanted the respect of those men that I so much looked up to growing up. I don't know that we had a big purchase. We were so grateful and blessed that something of this magnitude could happen to our family that all I remember is we had a great Christmas. But I can't put it, there's no dollar amount that we spent on anything as much as just the atmosphere and how do I put it, the fulfillment of an accomplishment that I had been striving after since I was 20 years old. I don't know that there's any one area as far as showing in Will Rogers that's tougher than the next. I guess my biggest concern all the years I showed was, man, I hope the cows I cut are as good as I think they're going to be, because that's such a key factor in this arena when it's one run. To me, it's the execution of getting the cows cut and those cows meeting your expectations. Because to me, that's when we see the winner, is the runs that really fit. I had a lot of runs get away from me in this pen for one reason or another, which that's cutting. Maybe a cow I'd picked did a little move when we went to cut her, didn't get started, or got paired up with another cow. It's amazing how quick things can go south in there, and especially when you're showing babies that haven't been in those situations numerous times. It's how well they handle the adversity of the little hiccup that might happen, because I think most of the colts can handle it when it's all fitting the way we want it to. And I think in my younger years, I think it was controlling my nerves a little bit. You know, the first time I ever made the finals here, I look back and that mare was probably capable to be a winner, but her jockey wasn't at the time. I was so excited to be there that, and I think we still see that through the, we've seen that through the years where some younger fellas make those finals for the first time, and hey, you want to win, and you can get to pressing a little hard or overdoing some things, and consequently a little hiccup will happen and it turns into a big one. But I think that was, for me, just staying on focus on execution. I mean, until you get to the finals, I always looked at it as if I was playing golf by myself. It isn't me trying to beat anybody else as much as if I go execute my run the best I can and see where that falls in. And no doubt when you get in certain situations, you have to press that a little bit, but that to me is still the main goal, is riding down there, executing that run, getting your cuts clean, and not worrying about what the last horse marked or who's in the lead, just executing that run. And every time I did that, it worked. Even the night I won this cutting, that's all I could focus on was, I got to cut these cows right. I'm going to do it with a little more authority than maybe I have in the go-arounds. I'm just going to darn sure show those guys judging that, hey, I'm going to show you a cow and I'm fixing to bring her up here. And we see all different kinds of cuts. And I wouldn't say those were power cuts, but they were cuts with a lot of authority, and nobody in the pen had to guess what I was cutting. And when that works, then things are going right. Gary Bellenfant, who helps me, he and I were having a pretty good discussion on a third cow. I had two I really liked. He's got one he really likes. I've got a heifer I really like. So I bend and I cut his cow, which you said the outcome was great. But the horse that was reserve champion that night followed me. And I turned around and watched him, and he cut the cow I wanted to cut first for his first count, and she was fantastic. So we were just on we were on the right page that night. For one, it gave me a little more confidence in what I was doing. I guess I was one of those kind of trainers that, and I really respect and admire those guys that don't ever doubt what they're doing. But that wasn't my personality. I never doubted my showmanship skills, but I would definitely seek advice when it came to training. So that solidified that a little bit more in my mind and gave me a little more confidence in my ability to train, or should I to train more a variety of horses. Because I've also learned through the years, you don't get many that do what you want them to do. Actually, I have two runs that really set in my mind, and I'll go back way in history, and that was the '76 Futurity. And the reason I remember that Futurity so well is because I thought that was maybe the best set of colts as a whole I'd ever seen I have seen in the finals of the Futurity. Most of those horses went on to be sires or dams of where we've come today. And Colonel Freckles won the Futurity. He was the underdog, and it was one of those situations where he's having a pretty darn good run. Cal really releases, towards the judges' stands, and Olin just sat down, hunkered, and waited for it to come back. And I felt like that last cow, that last little bit's what won the Futurity for him. The other run was actually Gary Bellenfant on Pepto Boonsma, because this run didn't start very well at all. And turning back, I'm thinking, one of my best friends, and I'm thinking, we're in trouble. And he held a second cow for so long and so pure. I had never seen a 3-year-old hold a cow like that at that time for that length of time with that much control. Since then, yes, I've seen some really good runs up there, but not one in my mind that was as pure a cow horse as you could possibly see. And I know how hard that is to do. And so that run, the fact that it didn't start well is what makes me really remember that second cow. I have so much respect for these guys today.
Yeah.
There's so many good horse trainers.
Yeah.
You know, and the fact that the breeding since I've been doing this, I mean, we've brought the level of these horses.
Yeah.
You know, so the quantity is there now. You know, and when I was a young man, only the way I looked at only the kind of elite trainers got the, and there wasn't very many of those, got the quality, and the rest of us just kind of trained what we had. You know, Doc Bard, he changed everything. First time we'd seen some horses that had a little cow that were that quick-footed. I mean, up till that I remember. Now, I bet you the old timers might remember something else, but I don't remember seeing any horses that quick-footed until basically the 70s is when I recognized it. I agree. There's a lot of things that's changed. Cows are a lot more difficult these days, in my opinion. And we've evolved a long ways in our judging. I mean, I think when we started back with the adjusted monitor system and went to trying to get a little more continuity in what our judges were seeing, and hopefully that our contestants understood what the judges were looking for. Mm-hmm. You know, there's no doubt that has, you know, you can go back and look at some of our old tapes, and there's a lot of penalties back in those days that were overlooked. You know, we were I mean, I don't think we had a hot quit rule. I think you just quit when you wanted to. And, you know, and contestants are going to do whatever they can to get through a run. And if there's an area that's gray, they will take advantage of that. And that is what they've done with our judging. And I think that's made our judges a lot more accountable, you know, and I just think it's brought a little more prestige to the winner, because you know he had to go through some grueling go-arounds and advance, and the judging stayed consistent enough to allow him to do that, where I don't want to be derogatory, but in years past we saw some flagrant stuff go on through our judging program, and it was hard to take. When someone like myself, I love this sport, and always have and always will, and you just want to see everybody get the same shot when they're being judged, and it's a hard thing because opinions are different.